Welcome back to The Upgrade for Hotel News Now, Europe, Middle East and Africa podcast, brought to you by Hotel News Now, STR and CoStar. As always, I'm proud to be your host. I'm Terence Baker, HNN's news editor for Europe, Middle East and Africa. Again, I'm ably assisted by producer Patrick Skillicorn. And this month we're honoured to have joining us Dimitris Manikis, President and Managing Director, Europe, Middle East and Africa at Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. Welcome, Dimitris. Dimitris and I were both recently at the Italian Hotel Investment Conference, better known as ITHIC, in Rome, enjoying the sunshine and espresso between quite violent bursts of thankfully short-lived rain. And earlier in the year, the African Hotel Investment Forum in Windhoek, Namibia, where the sunshine was constant despite it being technically winter there. Anyway, Dimitris, you cover a huge region. Presumably, it's vitally important for you to be out and about meeting current and potential owners, investors. What's on the roadmap for you coming up?
Look, it's an interesting, as you said, we have 700 existing hotels in 45 countries. And in a pure franchise world that Wyndham is, out of the 700, I think we manage about 20 across EMEA. Being out there with your customers and your team members is absolutely critical. In the franchise world, I keep on telling myself every morning and my team, there are two things: value creation and relevance. How can you be creating value for your franchisees and your team members, and how relevant can you be in their world? Because if you look at how the industry is playing out, if you look at the 5-6 bigger players who are listed in Wall Street in the United States, we've got about 160 brands between us. Why would anybody choose a Wyndham brand? Why would anybody choose one of our 25 brands to do business with? So our relevance and our owner-first philosophy and mentality and ethos is what keeps us going. And that's the roadmap of growth in EMEA and across the Wyndham world.
And that relevance, Dimitris, obviously Wyndham is an American company, Parsippany, New Jersey. I used to work quite close to there in Secaucus. I mean, the brands, everyone knows are American brands, Wyndham. How do you stay relevant in Europe, apart from American travellers coming to Europe, with brands like Wyndham and Dolce, which is probably growing in Europe more than it's elsewhere. But how do you find that relevance?
Look, you gotta have a strategy. I mean, if you look at our almost 700 hotels, 50% is Ramadas, all tiers. People love, our owners love our Ramada brand because it is steady, it is legacy, it's a brand that it resonates with a lot of people. Now, having said that, I was so glad to see the Super 8 story, how the Super 8 brand is actually growing. It's growing in Germany. We just had our second Super 8 in the United Kingdom. Our Dolce brand, I had the pleasure of hosting Mr. Andy Dolce himself, the founder of the brand, about a month ago in Versailles. We just opened a beautiful Dolce in Versailles outside of Paris. He's 89 years old. And I did an interview, kind of like what we're doing now with him, and he told me all about the brand, and I fell in love. I fell in love with the brand. I love the Dolce brand. It resonates, and we've opened 5 Dolces already in EMEA this year. So yes, we've got some brands that they're very much focused in the United States, like the Baymont, but having said that, then we're launching Microtel in India, which is the first Microtel launch that we're doing in EMEA. So in the past, we used to categorize, say, this is only going to grow in the US, or this is an Asian brand. Actually, now it's open to all. So yes, Ramada, absolutely. Wyndham Garden growing. Wyndham doing phenomenally well, especially in places like Turkey. But the new brands are actually growing as well.
And Wyndham, with scale in EMEA, will obviously allow owners to have other brands in the same market without cannibalizing on the existing Wyndham brand, which they obviously come with to you, that increased relationship. We're going to drill down into franchising, because obviously that's probably the big story in Europe at the moment. But first of all, we need a recap of how you got into the hotel industry. What keeps you burning?
Look, I was 19 years old. A friend of mine, at that time, the new Intercontinental Hotel in Athens, remember, I'm going to kind of reveal my age here. I was back in the early 80s. So the Intercontinental Athens has opened. A friend of mine said, you know what, do you want to make some money for the summer? Let's go and work there for a couple of months. We make some money and then we go and party in the Greek islands. So I went there and I fell in love with hospitality. I fell in love with the hotel business. I stayed there for 2 years. So I never went to the Greek islands. I ended up staying for 2 years. I fell in love with the hospitality industry. I had an amazing guy. I mean, every time he was walking down the stairs, he was like God. He was the John Ose, Irish guy. He was the general manager. Unfortunately, I heard that he passed away a few years back. He called me, he took me aside one day and he said, do you wanna have a career in this business? I said, I don't know, sir. I've only been here 6 months. He said, stay here for a couple of years. I'll take you through all the different departments. You understand what you want to do. And then I'll write you an intro letter and you're going to do a master's degree in the UK. And remember, at that time, Greece, 80s, drachma, very expensive. So I got some money. My father helped, got his reference letters, gone to the University of Surrey, did my master's degree in tourism, and then the rest is history. I've been in this amazing industry for 33 years now. And if I ever come back, I would come back doing exactly the same, because I think I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be in this amazing industry.
And you didn't pay for education?
And I didn't pay for education, yes.
I always have to be careful how you say this, but our generation, we didn't pay for education, did we?
No.
I mean, my own experience, I went into a temp agency in Manhattan to get a job. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had hair down to my back, and they said, we're not going to send you to a bank. Have you heard of Vanity Fair magazine? And I said, yes, I hadn't. Next thing I know, 6 months, I was working for the deputy editor of special features, got me the job in another hotel, in another magazine business, who then said, we have an option for you if you want to study for your master's degree.
Wow.
So it was possible in those days, wasn't it? I mean, let's hope that comes back, because education, experience, mentorship, obviously hugely important in how we all develop. Let's talk about franchises. As I said, obviously it's the one big story that's sweeping Europe. It never used to be a franchised world. A lot of independent hotels we know, and it still probably mostly is. Italy, where we were, certainly still is. But Wyndham obviously in a pole position to capitalise on that new wave. You've explained your career highlights, so now we need a potted history of franchising in Europe and what you see will happen in the next 5 to 10 years generally and in Wyndham.
Look, we are the world's biggest franchise company, right? We have 25 brands, 9,200 hotels, 95 countries. We're completely asset light, zero asset. It was a very conscious decision for our business, especially when we went public 6 years ago. And something that people do not know necessarily about Wyndham is that we were founded back in 2007 with Wyndham, when Wyndham Worldwide spun off from Cendant, which was a huge conglomerate at that time. So we're a relatively young kid. Yes, we've got legacy brands, but we are a relatively young kid in the hospitality industry. When we went public 6-7 years ago, it was very evident that franchising is the way to go for us. Out of 25 brands, 20 we've actually bought, 4 we created ourselves, and 1 we actually licensed. So we are a group that accumulates brands, buys brands that are relevant to our strategy and relevant to our growth, and then we franchise out of them. Now, because the world is changing, franchise now is becoming far more relevant than ever before. So we are right at the right place at the right time. I was in India last week. We are the ones who brought franchising to India. We have 61 properties, and now in India everybody talks about franchising. So I see a great future. There is something else that helps the franchise world, is the white label operators. The management companies that have grown out of the growth of franchising. These people are professionals. They do a great job managing assets. They're multi-site, multi-brand managers, and their growth comes in parallel with the franchise growth. So what I see in the next 5 years, first of all, I see me retiring hopefully. I see franchising growing more. I see consolidation in brands buying other brands. I see the growth of white label operators, and I see the world changing hands. We saw it in Italy. Suddenly in Italy, the family business is selling. The family business, the next generation doesn't want to stay in the business. This is happening in Spain, in Portugal, in Italy, in Greece, in Turkey. So all of this will create a completely different world, both in the franchising, but the white label operators as well. So this is a very interesting development in our business in the next 5 years.
And in Italy, that family ownership, it's a big step to completely get rid of that, and then maybe white label management is an option for those families to perhaps get into that business or sell part of a property portfolio, do that third party or white label management and be a bit closer, for them to be closer to the owner. It's a good solution.
Correct.
We're speaking to a lot of people, not just franchise companies, but other international hotel companies. They're doing a lot of conversions. They're doing a lot of bolt-on portfolios to get that share of global portfolio onto their company websites. As you say, it's what analysts love. They love pipeline. What are you doing? I mean, you've created some brands, you bought some brands. Is there any kind of developments you're looking at countries or markets you're looking at to grow scale?
Yeah, I mean, we bought the Vienna House brand about a year and a half ago. That was about 50 beautiful hotels in Central Europe with a great partner of ours, the HRG Group. I think portfolio deals are our nature, is part of our DNA. One thing that our CFO and CEO have always said, Wyndham will never say no to a deal that makes sense, because that's what we do in all our lives. I think regional brands, Terry, they've got some amazing value. In the past, we used to buy the big brands, right? We bought La Quinta, 900 hotels in the United States, made a lot of sense. But now we're more focused on regional growth. If there is a great brand in Italy, if there is a great brand in India, or there is a great brand in the CIS that makes sense and can grow our portfolios, we're 100% interested. But this has to come with two caveats. One, a great operator and a great OpCo. The OpCo, the person or the company that manages those assets need to be in the right frame of mind, and they need to have the right roadmap to grow with us the business. That's what we've done with Vienna House, and that's what we're going to do with anything that we're going to do in the next couple of years. Many
years ago, when I was moderating a panel in the United States, I introduced someone, I think it was before Wyndham bought them, and I said, blah, 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 from La Quinta. And I speak Spanish to a degree. I'm not fluent, but I can survive in Spain. And like, La Quinta. So one of the most embarrassing moments I had on stage, probably not too embarrassing, but I apologise. So we were in Italy. I was there basically for porchetta sandwiches, for Tuscan wine, and in fact, but my wife Francesca is from Italy. She grew up in Rome. But Italy is on the cusp of transition. We talked about all these things, about family ownership, moving into franchising and perhaps other business models. But what can you tell me about Wyndham's plans for Italy, and how important is that country now in terms that Spain might be much more competitive? It seems to me to be Italy's time right now.
Yes, it is Italy's time. We've seen it at the conference. If you look at the penetration of international brands in Italy, it's probably the lowest across Europe. Why? Because again, of the traditional nature of Italian hospitality. Family-owned business, it goes from generation to generation, and they never really needed an international brand, right? It was more Italian to Italians. I think the last 3-4 years, first of all, the influx of American tourists. It has completely changed the nature of the Italian tourism. Second thing is climate change, Terry. Climate change has made the Med very warm during the summer. That is extending the season. Third is the budget airlines. They made Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in Italy far more popular than they were 5-6 years ago. Fourth, Italy is one of the few countries that has at least 40 or 50 historical cities. Places that is not just about Rome or Florence. It's about every single little village in Tuscany is a place that people want to go. Unlike Greece, that it's limited Greek islands and Athens, or Spain, Barcelona, Madrid, and a couple of Andalusia villages, Italy is full of places that you can have an amazing time and you have great experiences. That is what Italy is doing, is actually selling that product, is actually creating opportunities for people to visit and get to know Italy better. And at the same time, don't forget, great food, great wine, great weather, and all of this together, they make it a very appealing product. So Wyndham is very interested in Italy. We have 4 hotels in Italy already. It's not just about the business center, it's about leisure as well. And it's not just about Italy to Italians, it's about Italy to the world now. The world has discovered Italy and it's only going to go better.
I mean, I might suggest for Italian tourists probably vacationing outside of Italy now. How, with the influx of Americans and other Europeans into Italy, you mentioned a history, of course, and you refer to those secondary cities, I mean, Lecce, Bari, Padova,
Bologna,
Verona,
yes.
Bologna, Perugia.
Yes.
I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. How do you keep up those quality of your product when you're bolting on hotels, you're doing conversions, you're buying single hotels, or you're putting franchises on single hotels? The Americans come in. How do you keep that quality over such a burgeoning real estate portfolio?
It's very difficult, Terry. It's very difficult. Why? Because right after COVID, we understood that the 100 pages brand standards books are not relevant to the world anymore. You have to have my view on brand standards and how do you keep the DNA of a brand. You choose 5 signature items of a brand. You make sure that those 5 signature items are evident in your hotel, and then you create experience. If you are, let's say, Super 8. I was at the Oktoberfest in one of our Super 8s in Germany, in Munich. I could see backpackers to business people. And breakfast is the best place to see the kind of customers you have in a hotel because they're all coming down in these 2 hours of breakfast. As long as you stay loyal to the DNA of the brand, the 5 key signature characteristics of the brand, as long as the price ratio of what you price versus to the product and the service you deliver, then you build a very good future for that brand and your business. Because going around and checking people and say, why do you have a 10 centimeters higher coffee table book or coffee table or whatever, those days are long gone. People are not going to check how high or how low is your coffee table. People are going to talk about experiences. People are going to talk about the sleep. People are going to talk about how good your shower is. These are the items that, going back to basics, that's what I'm trying to say. Going back to basics in hospitality is how you keep relevant. So, 5 signature characteristics of a brand. Make sure that the DNA is kept and deliver the basics, and the future is bright.
And soft brands, collection brands, does that play a part or not?
They do play a part. Soft brands is a way to get into business with people that they don't necessarily want to be part of your brand ecosystem. It's growing, not just for us, but for other hotel groups. Soft brands are growing across the world. It is a solution to do business with brands that they don't necessarily fit to your brand portfolio. Is it going to grow? I think it will, because there are so many dependents that make sense to be part of a bigger distribution player.
And with Wyndham, will it grow?
Yes. Our trademark collection is doing phenomenally well. Our registry collections, which is upper scale, we just launched the first registry collection in the United States. We've got at least 4 or 5 in Europe. We've got more in the pipeline. But our trademark collection is the one that is growing the fastest.
And how about things like franchises? Is that something you're into? Or would you have a franchise and then have it turned over to management later for the owner?
Yes, it is something we've looked at. We're doing it in the Middle East a bit more, because Middle East is a managed business. Again, franchise for us, it's far easier than going down the full management services. So if we have to, for the right owner and the right asset, of course we're going to do it. Is it a top priority at this point? No, because franchise still is the top priority of the brand.
And you preempted my question, because to end, I was going to mention a couple of definite markets. Middle East, what's happening there for Wyndham?
Middle East, obviously everybody talks about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, I think they've started to realize they have to be inclusive instead of exclusive. What I mean by that is not just about luxury, it's about mid-scale and economy if you want to get 150 million tourists a year. I am very focused on India, not necessarily just for India, but the outbound. Indian consumers, they're going to be 150 million middle-class Indian consumers who are going to travel around the world in the next 5 years. As you know, Air India and Indigo, they've just done the biggest order in aviation history, 800 planes. So these people are going to travel somewhere. We want to capture that part of the wallet of the Indian consumer. I am really fascinated with the CIS, excluding Russia. Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Georgia, enormous growth there. If you go to Baku, you will see that it was like Dubai was 5 years ago. Skyscrapers, cranes everywhere. It's getting built. We're having some amazing hotels there. I see a lot of future there. And obviously, the usual suspects. Central Europe, conversions, mostly the new builds. And the Med in terms of acquisitions, portfolio deals that is going to come to the market because obviously those traditional families are starting to sell their business.
And very much lastly, onto your homeland, Greece. You're going to be there very soon. What's going on there? It's no longer a cheap destination anymore, is it? The ADRs are through the roof.
Look, Greece, first of all, I'm proud. If you look what happened to Greece 10 years ago. We were just about to go bankrupt. We were just about to leave the euro. And 10 years later, we are one of the miracles of economic recovery in Europe. Tourism is playing the most, and not just tourism, leisure real estate. Everything that has to do with leisure in the real estate sector. Athens is booming. Tier 2 cities like Thessaloniki is doing very well. People are discovering secondary and tier 3 cities and islands. And what has actually changed a lot is the airlines' accessibility and the airports. Since Fraport took over 14 regional airports in Greece, the airport experience, which is key, has changed completely. Now you can fly to Naxos, you can fly to Paros, you can fly to islands that they were not accessible some time ago, but now you can fly and you can have a great experience. So, airport accessibility, tier 2, tier 3 cities, new islands that are up and coming, the Greek gastronomy that is becoming more and more popular, the fact that Greeks still believe in the essence of hospitality. We invented philoxenia. It's a Greek word. We are friends to foreigners. And at the same time, the fact that we suddenly play not just in the pure hotel, but in the leisure real estate space, all of this together makes Greece a very interesting experiment for the future. Climate change will help us extend the season. You've got more people now coming to Greece in November, December, and the season starts in February. So, and what I think it's a huge bet for Greece is the mainland greens during the winter. My family comes from the mainland. If you go to mainland Greece during the winter, it's like being in the Alps, but with far better food and more variety of experiences. So discovering winter mainland Greece, for me, is going to be the next big thing for Greece.
Well, I look forward to going back to Greece soon too, I hope. Last time I was there, I was in Castellorizzo, which is
tiny,
but
yes.
Beautiful. My goodness.
Beautiful.
And Halki?
Halki. Wow, yes.
Those were two islands we chose using Rhodes as a base.
As a base, yes.
But fantastic. I look forward to going back. Dimitris, thank you so much for your time. It's been a fascinating conversation. We look forward to having you again soon.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're signing off now for Hotel News Now's EMEA podcast, The Upgrade. We'll see you next time. But there's a few stories you might be interested in the pages of Hotel News Now. Always online, of course, always available on our website, but you might be interested in a few things. Firstly, South Africa's Vantage Capital was exited Egypt hotel firm Pick Albatross Hotels. What a wonderful name for a hotel company that is. Vantage gave Pick Albatross some money during the pandemic to tide them over. Difficult times, of course, for everybody. That has been a success, and now Vantage have decided the time's right to exit that deal. So we wish Pick Albatross all the best going forward on their own, so to speak. Secondly, all the Q3 earnings results in the EMEA region. I look after Whitbread, IHG Hotels and Resorts, and Accor are in. You can read about how their shares and how their performance is doing over the last year. One of the things we've noticed is the improvement in share prices for all the companies in the hotel world, really most of them. And Accor perhaps could be criticized for not having a healthier share price as they could have done, considering all the innovation and brands that company has. But they're doing very, very well too. So read that, please. Lastly, as many of you know, the United Arab Emirates is going to be the first Muslim country to have an organized hotel casino portfolio. A few Las Vegas companies have bids in or have development contracts signed for hotels. UAE have just announced that Sydney's Aristocrat, who design, program, operate and install slot machines and other gaming machines of that type, have got the first contract to go in, probably in a hotel in Ras Al Khaimah. So that's another story we have written. And lastly, of course, the big news last week was the United Kingdom budget. The new Labour Party voted in July. Is their first budget in 15 years, almost 15 years, and they're seeking another £40 billion worth of tax rises. That's largely come from increases in employer national insurance contributions, and there's also an increase in the national living wage, both of which will put pressure on hoteliers. So read that out. Again, thank you so much for listening. As always, this podcast was produced by Patrick Skillicorn. Additional material and lots of data was provided by William Anns at STR. And as a reminder, every other Thursday I produce an EMEA newsletter with exclusive articles, etc., etc. Please go to the website, sign up. I'll be checking out next time.
I'm Isaac Colazo, Vice President of Analytics at STR.
Hi, and I'm Jan Freitag, National Director for Hospitality Analytics for the CoStar Group. Tune in to our new show, Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast.
It's a podcast on the global hotel industry, its current trends, what we're thinking about, and where the industry's going.
And we like to have fun with the data too. Find us on hotelnewsnow.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe today.